This is the Farm RPG podcast. I am your host, Bellogan. This episode, we have player spotlights with Dottiestpond, Omnistrats, and Theboywholoved. Without further ado, let's jump into it. This is another player spotlight. I am your host, Bellogan, and with me today is Dottiestpond.
What's up?
I'll tell you what's up. I've got a major announcement that I have been asked about multiple times. So it turns out, just yesterday, from the time of this recording, Skyrim went on sale on Steam. I picked it up.
Oh, wow.
I have now officially played it for at least 30 minutes.
What do you think?
Well, I'm playing without any mods on, just vanilla. Yeah, you can tell it's aged a little bit. The controls, I think, are definitely probably built more for console than mouse and keyboard, but that's how I play.
Yeah. I'm much more of an Oblivion guy. I never really cared for Skyrim. I tried it several times.
Yeah, I had played through Morrowind and Oblivion years and years and years ago, so I kind of know what's going on. But anyway, yeah, I recorded my first session, and then I realized I didn't have my ducker right, so you really couldn't hear me talking over the game music. So, all right, scratch that. I'm not starting over. This isn't worth uploading. So sorry, there will be no Let's Play Skyrim for the first time ever on my YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah, the first on that.
But that's enough about me in this major announcement. But just so I'm never asked about it again.
Well, now you can get everybody off your back.
That's right. That's right. Dottiestpond, how did you first learn about Farm RPG?
So I pretty regularly scroll through the Play Store just to find games that I'll install, and will stay in my phone for like 2 years, and then I'll eventually uninstall them and never play them. And Farm RPG just showed up on one of my recommended, so I downloaded it and I played it, and pretty much from the first day I was hooked. So haven't stopped playing it since then.
So have you downloaded more games than to sit in that queue for 2 years?
Yeah, it's like never ending. It's just like a waterfall of games constantly pouring in that I never have time to play.
I think most of us have a pretty good backlog of things that we might touch at some point, or we'd like to think we will. That's another question. So it looks like you started playing back in February, so it's been a few months now.
Yeah, it's slowly building up. I just hit my first billion, so pretty excited about that. I'm waiting for one of the special events to buy my crop row.
Waiting to get that bonus, to get that farming 99.
Yes, I actually had no idea that it made a difference when it gave you XP for buying stuff until I heard it on the podcast. So I'm really glad that I had been listening, or I would have completely blew that.
Oh, now you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I think I've talked about in the videos that I do on YouTube in the past, but not everyone finds those either. You know, you look at the numbers of players that watch the videos or listen to the podcast, and it's pretty minuscule compared to the number of people who actually play the game.
Yeah, I was surprised because when I joined in February, the game has really taken off since then, because it seems like we would get like 100 new players a day then, and now it's significantly more, it feels like.
Yeah, we had a period there where we're getting 300 or 400 a day for a while. I think it slowed down maybe just a little bit, but my suspicion is those numbers will probably jump up with the summer and the college semesters ending. We tend to get, just historically from what we've seen with other Firestream games, we get a lot of players that play over the summer, and then it'll kind of die down a little bit when school gets back in session.
Yeah, it is interesting, especially with like the trends of summer break. I'm an indie game dev, so I have to keep up with the trends for when to release stuff.
So you know a thing or two about that.
Yeah, very important. You don't want to mess that up.
Well, we'll dig into your indie game dev side gig here a little bit later.
Okay.
Now that you've been playing Farm RPG for a while, if you were going to describe the game in one sentence, how would you do that?
I would say the least greedy mobile stat-based mobile game with the best fishing mini game.
Oh, you liar.
I know. I knew I was going to get flagged for it.
It's okay. If you like the fishing, that's all right.
I love it. That's actually probably one of the main things that hooked me from the beginning. I don't know. I'm just a sucker for fishing mini games. It could be the most mundane and tedious game, and I would just play it endlessly.
Well, I think you're the first player we've had say that they love it and they think it's the best ever. We've had players say that it'll grow on you to the point where you don't hate it anymore.
Yeah, I'm just a sucker for fishing mini games, which is funny because I hate fishing in real life. I've always hated it since I was a kid, but something about when you throw it in a game, I love it.
Oh, there's no correlation to real fishing. I like fishing a lot. I don't do it that much anymore, but anyway, well, if you like fishing so much, you'll have to get that Fishing Addict 3-merit badge at some point.
Yeah, boy, I'm working on it, but that is pretty crazy. I think my highest streak right now is like 3,000. I work on them all at 1,000 at a time, so that way they're all at the same level.
There you go. Yeah, I just dug in and spent 2 weeks. I'm just like, I'm going to do it for the merit badge, and then I hope to never manually fish again, except when I have to for daily chores. But luckily, mealworms have helped with that.
Yeah, mealworms made that a whole lot easier. That takes like 5 seconds.
Oh yeah, it's quick. Just to catch the fish, but that does nothing for your streak for that merit badge.
No. I'm actually glad he made it so it didn't. Otherwise, everybody who got the marriage badge before would be pretty mad for everybody new to come in and just use mealworms and get it in half the time.
Get it? Yeah, I imagine we wouldn't be thrilled. All right, so I can imagine, but where did the username Dottiestpond come from?
It was my Xbox randomly generated name, and I hated it, and I never changed it, and now it just kind of stuck.
So no stories about a polka dotted pond.
No,
where you had to fish even though you hated
it. Yeah, no childhood trauma story here. Don't have anything as interesting as Velcro shoes.
I think we've had a few people that have used randomly generated names, and it just kind of stuck.
Yeah, I usually use my first and last name and then the year I was born. And then I made that my Reddit name, which was a massive mistake. So I was like, I got to stop using my first and last name so people can find me. So I just switched to that.
Yeah, there you go. There's some value to anonymity on the internet for sure.
Yeah.
So we know that you install a lot of games on your phone. Now, is that iPhone or Android that you play?
Android.
All right. So besides Farm RPG, are there any Android games that you're playing right now besides that?
Not really. I don't really have time to play games because I work full time. And then when I come home, I'm always working on games that I'm programming. So that's why I needed a game that I could just pick up from time to time. Like I play it every day to do the daily chores and then just log in for like 5 seconds every once in a while. So that's why Farm RPG was kind of the perfect fit for me.
You just kind of fit in and around everything else you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I can echo that sentiment a little bit. I get so busy now, when I was doing the videos or now working on the podcast, I probably spend more time doing that than playing the game. And I think we hear that from Code Ranger too. It's like I spend way more time coding code now for
boy, that guy puts a lot of time into this.
Yeah, with Buddy Farm.
Buddy.farm has been a lifesaver for me, especially with like finding the rune stones.
Yeah, it's a great resource. I go to it frequently for all kinds of things. All right, is there anything that you wish the Farm RPG community knew? So,
as somebody who does mobile games, I realized how much more money Firestream could be making if he would like put ads in it. Because I think only like 1 to 5% of players will ever spend money on a mobile game. And those are your whale players is what you call them. Because they usually put a lot of money in. And so for the other like 95% of players, you usually have the ads to supplement that. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that he doesn't put them in really gives him a lot of points for me because he, like I said, he could be making a lot of money doing this. And the last time I heard he wasn't even doing this full time. So it's like he's letting the Farm RPG community have a better game just because he cares about it.
Yeah, the Firestream's games have been predominantly his hobby, for sure. And he's always focused on making games that he would want to play. I think that's a big part of why we haven't had the ads, because we haven't seen that. If you've listened to the podcast, you've heard Milk Bark talk about it, and I've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
None of the games ever had ads in them for sure. So you mentioned you're an indie game dev. Is it primarily mobile games that you work on, or do you do things for other platforms?
No, when I was in high school, I released this really buggy game called Magic Burger Tree Business Simulator.
Okay.
With my cousin. And it was just kind of a game as a joke. It was like a cookie clicker. And we released it on Game Jolt because at the time that was like the biggest platform to release them. And it ended up hitting like the #1 hottest growing indie game on Game Jolt for like a week. And so ever since then, we've been working on them. I ended up switching I built that in GameMaker. So I learned C#. So now I can make the games in Unity, which is significantly better. But we're working on our first big release, which will be Powerless Heroes. And it's kind of like an arcade shooter. It's third person where you're looking down and it's kind of pixel art, but it's in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
And you fight waves of enemies and then a boss at the end of the wave. So that's going to be coming out on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC.
All right, awesome. Well, we definitely want to hear more about that. Is it something that's potentially still years out from release, or is it something that you've got a roadmap with a shorter timeline on?
Hopefully December. We're about halfway done with it right now.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, if you're still playing Farm RPG and we're still around in December, we'll get you on to talk about it.
Okay, sounds great.
We absolutely have no problem with it in the past. We've always promoted games that have been developed by other game developers who played the games. So
cool. Yeah.
So that's always fun. I can think of another game developer whose game that we talked about a little bit. I haven't done the podcast because we played with him in Titan Conquest, but I did a video on it, and see if I can remember the game that he had. It was The Wind and the Wilting Blossom. It's a game that he worked on.
What platform was it for?
It's on PC.
Okay.
And it's on Steam. I have it. It's kind of like Faster Than Light or some of the other games where you do playthroughs, and then each playthrough unlocks new content for you from the next playthrough, and you kind of go through this map
kind of like
these
a
old Japanese. Kind of, yeah. So basically, you go through this map where you go to different nodes and events happen, or there's battles, and you kind of build a crew with you have your main. It's based in ancient Japan, so you have like your main hero with his abilities, and then you hire other units. And
oh, cool!
It's kind of fun. I have a video on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
You or anyone else listening can dig up to see if that's something of interest to you or not. But yeah, we had no problem plugging his game. We'd mentioned in chat there. We're happy to talk about your game as well when it comes out. And
cool.
It's always fun to learn about other content that we may not hear about because indie dev games don't get a lot of advertising, and other than word of mouth, that's kind of how people find out about them.
Yeah, don't have a huge budget for marketing, so it's always great to have people shout you out.
Marketing budget. Take 10 minutes to talk to Beligan and show up on a podcast.
Yeah, I'll be sure to do that. It's funny, actually. Your name had thrown me off whenever I first listened to the podcast. And when I went to send you a message, because I went to send you a message after you had finished like episode 5.
Uh-huh.
And I accidentally sent it to Borgen instead of Beligan.
Oh,
so I waited for like a week, and I thought, well, I guess he's busy. And then I went to check, and I had accidentally sent it to Borgen. So I guess he got it in between his times traveling from Titan Conquest to Farm RPG, and was just too busy to respond.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Borgen travels around. The reskin Zur from Destiny.
Yeah. Yeah, I had no idea you could send the NPCs messages until then.
They don't go anywhere. They don't get answered, but
well, he's got us sitting there.
Yes, he does. All right, I'll have to tell Firestream, go check Borgen's mail. Who else has sent him stuff instead of me? I want to know.
Probably a lot, yeah, because Beligan's kind of difficult to spell, so I saw you. It was somebody put it in my mailbox because you know how the NPCs will randomly put stuff in your mailbox. That's how I found it, and I was like, "Oh, that must be the guy who's doing the podcast." So, because I never really get in the chat.
Anybody else, if you're trying to find me or how to spell my name in game, click on About and Updates, And my name is towards the top under our amazing staff. You've got everybody there. You can click on. It goes to their profile. So
there we go.
Easy way to find any of the moderators.
No more Borgen mail.
No more Borgen mail. All right. Well, in addition to your indie game development, do you have any other interesting facts about yourself you'd like to share?
Well, I've been playing piano since I was 5.
And is that self-taught, or do you have teachers, or?
I was classically trained for 8 years, and then I went to play for an orchestra for a couple of years, and then I just switched to self-taught because I hate reading music.
As a drummer, I feel that.
I did it for 8 years, and I hated every second of reading it.
Yeah, percussion in high school, and I did a little bit. I lasted one semester as a percussion major in college. That was about it. I couldn't handle couldn't handle the egos in the music department. That, and I really wasn't great at college or high school. But
yeah.
But no, high school band was always fun. We had percussion as a separate class from everybody else. So we just get together and we'd learn the parts, and then we'd get pulled out of class to go practice like the concert band a couple of times before the concert.
Oh yeah, that's always fun.
It would never fail though. We'd show up for the concert, knowing what we're going to play, and our band director would come running over, hand us some sheet music, and he's like, "Here's the parts for the beginning band. They're going on in 5 minutes. Get out there." So we'd go out. We'd be reading this music for the first time. We didn't know what it was, and it made us sound like the rest of the beginning band, frankly.
Wow, well, you fit right in.
But a few times we'd get so lost, we'd just start playing stuff. Sounds like we fit in, and we could tell we were off because he'd be throwing us these angry looks. Like,
yeah, just throw a random drum solo in there. As long as it's good, nobody will complain.
Yeah, and the audience never knew, but
yeah, what was tough about being in an orchestra is that most of the music was so pre-written to where every instrument would have their own little section that if you messed up, it was pretty obvious that you screwed up, especially when there was only one piano.
See, I tried to explain to my wife why I find listening now to classical music stressful. I'm like, you don't understand. You don't know the terror of having to count out 103 and half measures and then crash your cymbals at just the right time. That's it.
Yeah, and it'll sneak up on you too the second you stop thinking about it. You get lost, exactly. And then you're done.
Well, that's awesome. I love the piano. I don't play it, mostly because my mom taught it growing up, so it was never serious, but she'd never let me take lessons from someone else. I stuck with the drums. But we have a nice piano. My wife's been learning. So that's been fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's always been my favorite instrument. It's pretty much the best instrument to know nowadays with MIDI.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you want to do any composition, it's way easier if you've got a keyboard to plug it in. I can't do that. I've got to put in the notes in the piano roll editor, and it's just painful. It's like
that's what I used to have to do when I first started doing music. I had a software called Caustic, and I used it on my phone, and I had to manually click the notes on a touch screen, and oh my gosh, that was painful. I finally switched to FL Studio, and now I can just record it with my keyboard, which takes half the time.
Yeah, no, I like FL Studio. I bought the full package, that mostly for Dead Bushia. You may know from the podcast because he does a lot of music writing, but I use it every now and then.
Yeah, I use it a lot because I do the music for my games, so I had to. I didn't want to outsource it.
Oh, very cool, very cool. Well, that makes me want to see your game even more now. To hear some of the music. Here's some of what you got.
Well, December, you get to check it out.
All right, it's on. I'm putting it on my calendar. We'll bug you about it in December.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, it was actually interesting to me how popular the chat is. I didn't even realize there was a chat in this game until like 3 months after playing it. And I've never really been a social gamer. MMOs have always been my favorite genre of game, and I've always played them single player and not talked to a single person. This game is the first time I've ever actually communicated in the chat, but the community here is really good, really helpful.
It definitely is the addicting part of the game for a lot of us, more than the game itself. All right, well, with that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you again, Dottiestpond, for reaching out to me and for coming on and spending some time to talk to us.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Hey, this is another Player's Spotlight. As always, I'm your host, Belogan, and with me today on very short notice is Omnistrats.
Yep, that's me.
Welcome to the podcast. So, Omnistrats, let's start off. Just first of all, how did you learn about Farm RPG in the first place?
My sister told me about it. She had been playing it for a bit. We were going on a road trip, and I needed some games to play. And so I downloaded it. And I've been playing for quite a while.
Yeah, it looks like you started in October, so it has been a little while you've been playing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You seem to know the game fairly well, if given how long you've played. If you were to describe Farm RPG in one sentence, how would you do that?
I feel like all the good descriptions have been taken. I've watched a few of the episodes of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one person described it as Stardew Valley on a spreadsheet, and I feel like that's probably the most accurate I've heard it.
All right, cool. I'll take your word for it. I have not played Stardew Valley. So another game on the list. So your username is Omnistrats. Where did that come from?
Okay, so that's like a really old username. I've had it in like a ton of games. I don't even remember like how I made it because I've been using it for like 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of don't know where it came from. So
Lost to history somewhere.
Yeah, you need like a time machine to figure that out.
All right, well, fun. So besides Farm RPG, what other type of games do you like to play?
I actually play a lot of like Clash Royale and Clash of Clans.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's probably a pretty common game that most people play. I don't really play anything else like unique, particularly.
Mm-hmm.
Farm RPG is the only like unpopular game I play. I mean, it's not like unpopular, it just has fewer players than most of the games I play.
It definitely has a unique audience that it appeals to. It's not quite like the Clash games for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you wish the Farm RPG community knew?
About me or just in general?
Anything you like. Could be something about the game, something about life.
Okay. Everyone should grow carrots. It's the best.
Grow carrots. Okay.
Yes.
What is it about carrots that you like?
I get to grandmaster them. I'm actually currently grandmastering carrots. I'm at 95,000.
That's close. You're almost there.
A lot of carrots. Yep.
I am going back and grandmastering all those faster crops, but I haven't sat down and done carrots or peppers yet, just because their interval's so short. I'm doing ones that take a little bit longer. Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, besides loving carrots, do you have any interesting facts about yourself you'd like to share with the community?
That's I'm not. Yeah, I probably should have thought about this more before I signed up to do this. A hard one.
It's too late now. We've got you on. Like it or not.
This might take a bit. I like sword fighting, I guess. That's my favorite hobby. Except Farm RPG. Farm RPG is my favorite hobby, but sword fighting is my second favorite hobby.
So sword fighting, do you do like LARPing or fencing, or what kind do you do?
A lot of different kinds. I don't know. It's more of a hobby than anything like serious.
Mm-hmm.
So like take my friends and we'll find like whatever we can, and we'll just not like actually fight each other, but we will find like sticks and we'll hit each other with them. Sounds weird, but fun. And I do it a lot. So
hey, good, you're doing something outdoors.
I guess
we'll take it.
Yep. I gotta counteract my Farm RPG playing with some outdooring.
There you go. So who now is further in Farm RPG, you or your sister?
My sister quit, so she's at like level 50 all her skills.
Oh.
But it's because of her that I'm up in this game, so I can't really judge her. She hasn't played in like 3 months.
All right. Well, you can say thanks to her anyway for getting you involved, and we're glad to get to know you as well.
Yes. Bye.
This is another player spotlight. As always, I'm your host, Belogan, and with me today is the boy who loved.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good. So first of all, huge thanks for responding to my shout out in chat. I just hopped in general chat and said, hey, who wants to be on the podcast like right now? And I got a couple responses. It was great.
Yeah, I saw it and I figured, hey, why not? You know, doesn't hurt. Figured it would be kind of fun.
Now, you mentioned you hadn't listened to the podcast prior. Had you listened to it before I shouted out in chat, or was that just cramming to try to prep really quick once we talked?
No, you mentioned needing to, or you mentioned possibly wanting to review the questions beforehand. So I figured I'd give a couple episodes a listen, and I'd been meaning to listen to it anyway. So better now than never, I guess.
Well, that's awesome. I think it's cool that you kind of hopped on, and this is the excuse to start listening to it. So we'll see if you get hooked or not after this.
I probably will. I'll binge it. I drive a lot for work, so it makes it easy to binge podcasts.
Awesome. Yeah, that's usually when I was driving a lot for work, that's when I listen. Now I fly more. So I'll still download some stuff and listen to them, but more it's when I'm out walking the dog. It's when most of it happens nowadays.
Now, what would we do without podcasts?
Listen to music? I don't know. Something like that. So there are two types of episodes. If you didn't know, there's the interview and game related episodes, and then we have a D&D game running as well. So those are on there as well. If it's your cup of tea, it's there. If you don't care for it, feel free to skip those. But hope you enjoy it.
Okay, yeah.
Well, let's jump into the questions about you a little bit. You've been playing since December. It looks like end of December. Mm-hmm. Where did you first learn about Farm RPG?
So I like idle games, like on my phone. They're just real easy to play, pick up every now and then kind of thing. I think I was browsing through the iOS store one day and just downloaded a handful of games to try out throughout the day. And Farm RPG was one of them. And that was it. Once I started playing after a couple hours, I was hooked.
Did any of the other games stick around, or were they all duds?
I think one of them stuck around for a little while, but most of them got deleted.
Yeah, it tends to be the case with mobile games a lot of times. Well, now that you've been playing for about 5 months now, if you were going to describe what Farm RPG is in one sentence, how would you do that?
I would have to call it a 1.5 player RPG game based around farming.
I like that. I'm going to ask for a little description on the 1.5 on how that works. I can guess, but.
Right. So Farm RPG is mostly single player. There's no like co-opt option except for maybe the community center. But because there are things such as community center and trading, to me, it feels a little bit like 2-player sometimes, or I guess multiplayer. But is still, it really is a single player game, but because of those extra little things, to me, it deserves another 0.5.
There you go. Not quite an MMO where you're dependent on everybody else, but they are part of the game with the community for sure.
Right.
So your username is The Boy Who Loved. Where did that come from?
I want to say it started, I think it was when I signed up for Minecraft. I didn't want to use the username I'd been using for other games like RuneScape because it was basically just my name backwards. And back then, back in like 2011, people told me that I looked a lot like Harry Potter. And since Harry Potter is called The Boy Who Lived sometimes, I tried that, but that was already taken. So I just changed that one little letter and it was available. So I've stuck with that since probably 2010, 2011.
Well, there we go. It's nice when you find one that sticks and isn't used.
Yeah, sometimes I'll sign up for a game and it's already taken. So I have to either take out a letter or change one of those O's to a 0 or something like that. But I usually can grab The Boy Who Loved pretty easily.
Not too much trouble. Yeah. Some usernames are super common. I remember from my days of playing MechWarrior Online, I can't tell you how many variants of Carnage there were in all upper cases with spaces with weird things. It's just like
Boop, XX, Savage, XX.
Right. That kind of thing.
To be honest, it's a little weird being referred to as my username out loud, as in like not in chat. Like I don't think anybody's ever called me The Boy Who Loved before.
Right.
It's
different. It's different. I think I went through that the first time probably several years ago because I travel a lot for work, and I met up with one of the guys I play MechWarrior Online with, and he was Carnage. Name I pick out with. So I went to dinner with him and his wife. I'm like, okay, do we call each other Belagan and Carnage, or do we use our actual first names? It's kind of weird. What do you do? Well, you can hop on podcasts or things like that, and it'll happen more.
Yeah, I suppose.
So we know the other mobile games you tried out at the end of December didn't stick around. Are there any other games, though, that you are currently playing? Or what other types of games do you like? You mentioned idle games.
Well, yeah, like I mentioned, idle games. I'm playing Universal Paperclips right now. That's like a big one in idle games. I've played all of your like big name ones, Adventure Capitalist, Cookie Clicker, you name it. Outside of like mobile games, I typically like either Call of Duty or platformers like Metroid, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So is most of your gaming mobile, or are you kind of split between that and other platforms?
I'd say most of my gaming is mobile, but that's probably just because I don't have a lot of time to, sit down and get into a campaign of Call of Duty or sit down and struggle through a Metroid boss for 3 hours.
I think you mentioned you've got a relatively young newborn. Is that your first kid?
Yeah. He was just born back in February. He just made 3 months old the other day.
Well, congratulations. I guess he's not old enough to be the one hogging the TV and the game consoles and that yet then.
No, not yet. But I've kept a lot of my older consoles and games from when I was a kid. So hopefully I'll be able to teach him the right way.
He's got to know the Konami code before he can talk, right?
Yeah. And the cheat codes for Grand Theft Auto and that kind of stuff.
All right. Was there anything that you wish the farm RPG community knew?
I think I would probably say something like the game is slow. It is supposed to be slow. So don't expect a lot of shortcuts to be added. I would probably say something like that. That's I see that a lot in chat and on like Loop for like the suggestions and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the suggestions seem to be stuff like, hey, let me use 500 fishing nets all at once instead of clicking a bunch of times, or let me do some auto farming, or, stuff like that. That would, it would be nice. But again, at the end of the day, it is, I feel like the game is designed to kind of be a slow paced sort of thing.
Yeah, it is definitely a chill is the intent. Sometimes we look at the comments and just think, it sounds like what they want is a long line of easy win buttons, an endless line of easy win buttons. People are looking for sometimes.
Actually, I kind of almost didn't want large nets to be added because to me it felt like one of those shortcuts that that would kind of take the what would you call it? Like, yeah, it's nice having large nets now, but it kind of took that little time waster out.
Yeah. I think that one, as much as it was driven by people wanting to use nets faster, I think a lot of that was just server load, especially with inventory sizes that people are getting now. When you've got 2,000 to 4,000 nets to do a day, that's a lot of server load that's been taken off beyond just player time saved.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, that's a good point.
I say that as if I had any decision in the matter on it. I just get a little insight sometimes in the background what's going on.
Yeah, it's all up to Firestream anyway, so
it is at the end of the day. Yeah. So we've learned some interesting things about you. We know you're a new parent. We know you generally like idle games. Do you have any other interesting facts about yourself that you could share with us?
I can solve a Rubik's Cube in about a minute.
That's pretty good. That takes some practice.
Yeah, it took a while to get there. I guess maybe something else that's kind of interesting is my job requires me to travel a lot. And I also get to do work for like Disney World, Universal Studios, like big theme parks. Mm-hmm. So that usually strikes conversation with other people.
Yeah, when you say you do work for them, like what kind of work specifically? Is it like on-site work, or doing contracting work for them, or?
Yeah, it's usually overnight inspections, just making sure that the ride's not about to fall apart, stuff like that.
Oh, got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I am not a native to Florida. We live here now, so those theme parks are kind of in our backyard.
Oh, nice. What part are you from?
We live,
if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I've talked about this in chat before. We live on Merritt Island, right next to the Kennedy Space Center in Port Canaveral.
Oh, wow. I do a lot of work out there too for like NASA and SpaceX and some of the other smaller ones.
Yeah, it's a fun area. We like it. Although of all the reasons we moved out here, we did it for the high school. They had programs my kids wanted to do when we came down here about 4 years ago.
Oh, I'm sure they have some good schools down there.
They do. There's always backlash against public schools and how good they are, but it's been good for our kids for sure. Awesome. Hey, I think that's probably a good point to wrap this up. Theboywholoved, thanks so much again for responding to my call out in chat and for, on very short notice, taking some time to come talk to us.
Yeah, no problem. Can I do a little shout out?
Absolutely.
Shout out to the player, the biggest fop doodle I know. Yep, shout out.
All right, there we go.